Next item on the agenda, 19-191, Superintendent's response to Kern's document. This is for information. Superintendent?
Let me hand these documents out to everybody first. This is the original document that was provided by Mr. Kern, and it is confidential. Let me have that one back. And this is a copy of our response. This is going to take a few minutes to go over. Because in the document there were over 60 complaints. Members of the board, this is the Alleghany County Public Schools response to Mr. Kern's document dated December 11, 2018. The document was sent to Gary T. Shuttle, Superintendent of State Police, Martha Navredis, if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, CPA, Auditor of Public Accounts for the state, and Michael Westfall, the State Inspector General. Mr. Kern also had a conversation with Gina Keller, the Assistant Superintendent, Virginia Department of Education, and Dr. James Lane, the Superintendent of Public Instruction for Virginia. The Virginia Department of Education requested a copy of Donnie Kern's document. He did not provide them a document. They called me, and then I provided them a copy of the document. I asked the board to bear with me as I review Mr. Kern's comments with its innuendos, false statements, and false assumptions. First one, Mr. Kern stated in his opening remarks something about the staff was theft of assets. As this is yet to be revealed to me, however, it would not surprise me if it is occurring. Mr. Kern has accused over 300 employees of stealing assets from ACPS. His assumption and statement is false, and among ACPS staff, there's now distrust of Mr. Kern and his motives for being on the board. The second comment he made, negative year-end Fund 1 operating balance of $36,000. The fiscal year 2018 actual year-end revenues for Fund 1, school operating of almost $27 million equal actual year-end expenditures for zero variance. Mr. Kern only compared budgeted expenditures to actual expenditures and did not include revenues. Of the total actual expenditures of the $27 approximate million, $120,969 and some change was fund transfers to Jackson River Governor School and Jackson River Technical Center for funds that we receive on their behalf as fiscal agent. An additional $846,007 was year-end fund balance transferred to Fund 10, School Capital. Since the fund transfers are not expenditures as substantiated by our auditing firm, we did not exceed the amount appropriated to us by the Board of Supervisors. The above referenced amounts may be verified via the FY 2018 revenues and expenditure statements posted to the school division website under Finance. His third statement, ACPS fund balances have not been audited. Only individual funds of the individual schools in the cafeteria fund have been audited. The auditing firm of Robinson, Farmer, Cox Associates audits all our division level funds every year. Our audit is included as part of the County of Alleghany's audit and is presented with the total county audit as a discretely presented component unit, the school board. The results of the audit are presented to the school board annually, and hard copies of the audit document are provided in each member. The fiscal year 2017 audit, the most recent available, was presented to the school board on March 19, 2018. The audit had no findings or recommendations for the school board and provided the auditor's opinion that the county ended the year in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. He actually put the audit in his document as well. Requests for specific positions that went unfilled in the unexpended classroom instruction funds in the operating fund, as well as the $120,000 approximate unexpended substitute wages year-end. Previous superintendent requested the finance director provide a macro synopsis related to the contributors to the year-end fund balance rather than just providing the year-end line item revenues and expenditures report. The current director has endeavored to provide such over the years, and whereas other financial directors did not. It bears mentioning that the year-end fund balance is generated as a result of net favorable variance in revenues and expenditures across all accounts, and that this is a simplistic synopsis of the interconnection of what it is. On the fiscal year 2018 memorandum for the year-end fund balance transfer, it was noted that the primary contributors to the fund balance included a favorable balance of about a little over $84,000 in substitute employees and $970,000 in wages and benefits. A footnote related to the wages and benefits amount stated that this was a combination of budgeted positions that were not filled during the fiscal year, budgeted positions that were modified or changed during the year, replacement benefit, pre-tax employee benefits, an impact FICA expense, and lower health insurance. The $487,000 amount was comprised of all wages and benefit expenditure accounts, not just classroom instruction funds. Subsequent to Mr. Kern's request for a list of positions, the finance director prepared and provided such. This is not a document that is typically created. Mr. Kern's next comment was, over the course of 90 days and 6 different requests for these details were given 3 different excuses. Mr. Kern's statement is false. He was provided the information several times and he chose to ignore the information that was provided to him. The unfulfilled positions, this is another Mr. Kern's comments, the unfulfilled positions were related to the $250,000 approximate 3 speech and language pathologists. This was explained to him several times as well. During the FY 2018, we were only able to hire a half-the-time speech-language pathologist, but we had 3 budgeted positions. However, we contracted with Salient Health and Presence Learning to provide speech services in lieu of the 2.5 positions that we're unable to fill, which is not unusual in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Total expenditures for this service was about $237,000. The speech-language positions were contracted through a private service. This has been explained to Mr. Kern, again, on multiple times. He has chosen to ignore it. Number 7, the past 4 year-end fund balance reports, which all have enormous surpluses that include unfilled vacant positions and excess substitute teaching funds. The year-end fund balance for fiscal year 2017 was $967,000, and that included a one-time enrollment loss funding of almost $390,000 that the General Assembly had approved as part of its FY 2018 budget process, but opted to pay a qualified school division in fiscal year 2017. This funding was subsequently earmarked for the New Tech Network partnership as approved by the school board and appropriated by the Board of Supervisors. Other primary contributors were $190,000 in unexpended textbook funds that we carry from year to year in the textbook fund, and then $346,671 related to wages and benefits that was transferred to Fund 10 School Capital. A footnote related to wages and benefits amount stated that this was a combination of budgeted positions that were not filled during the fiscal year, again, replacement benefit, lower substitute employee utilization, and lower health insurance participation. The fiscal year 2016 year-end fund balance was $533,997, with the primary contributors being unexpended textbook funds of $121,875 that were transferred to Fund 10, Fund 2. Textbook, additional Medicaid reimbursement, unexpended substitute and overtime payroll compensation, and it was all transferred to the school capital. Fiscal 2015 year, the fund balance was $1.15 million. I had just started my job on June 15th, if I recall. No, June 2nd I started, that's right. The finance director in place at that time did not provide a breakout of primary contributors to the year-end fund balance. Subsequent to the year-end close, the new superintendent, me, and the new finance director, Mr. Rice, recommended returning $280,686 to the county, which the school board approved and the Board of Supervisors accepted. Finally, having a year-end fund balance is desirable, and our fund balances are not excessive. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends a minimum of unrestricted fund balance of 2 months of operating expenditures. That's very important, and we worked hard to maintain that. Number 8, Mr. Kern said a new vehicle that was purchased was classified incorrectly in the operating fund versus expensing it to the capital fund. The expenditure related to this purchase of a pickup truck for maintenance department was classified correctly and was posted to the account capital outlay replacement. There is no requirement that all capital expenditures for the division be coded to Fund 10. Fund 10 was established as approved by the school board and the Board of Supervisors to provide future funding for major capital outlay and unanticipated emergencies via accumulation of year-end operating fund balances. Major capital outlay includes, but is not limited to, items from the capital improvement plan such as roof replacements and infrastructure upgrades. Funds that were accumulated in Fund 10 were used to help pay for the approximately $6 million of HVAC and electrical renovations to Alleghany High School that were completed in 2014. The County of Alleghany is one of the few localities in Virginia that enjoy this type of cooperation and best business practice between the school board and the Board of Supervisors. Number 9, there is other suspect invoicing, such as the purchase of $3,000 ice machine that should have been expensed to capital fund. The previous response addresses this as well, but also Alleghany County Public Schools follows the capital outlay threshold of the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is $5,000. Number 10, the statement by the finance director that ACPS individual funds are audited is false, as evidenced by the 2017 Alleghany audit report, which I've already said that we are audited every year by Robinson, Farmer, and Cox, who spend up here multiple days going through our process and found no fault with our finances or accounting over the last several years. Number 11, Mr. Kern says that the school uses a cash basis of accounting with which the auditor mentioned was not generally accepted under GASB or GAAP. Alleghany County Public Schools, like the vast majority of school divisions in Virginia, operates on the cash basis of accounting, but reports on the modified accrual basis. This is an acceptance and some would argue preferable method for public school divisions, especially given the practice of closing the fiscal year on June 30th. The county also records our transactions on a cash basis and reports on the modified accrual basis. As previously noted in the fiscal year 2017 audit, included the auditor's opinion that the county, which includes discretely presented component unit, the school board, ended the year in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. With regard to the school activity funds, the cash basis of accounting is the standard method for presenting this information, even though this does require a statement in the audit that the cash basis is a basis of accounting other than accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Our school division has historically reported on the cash basis. The auditing firm of Robinson, Farmer, Cox Associates is not aware of other school divisions, including very large divisions in Northern Virginia, that report their school activity funds on a full accrual or modified accrual basis. They report on the cash basis as we do. This is due primarily to the challenge of requiring school-level bookkeepers to maintain their records on an accrual basis. We can, of course, expend additional funds through the use of contracted services or enhanced staffing to report on the accrual basis should the school board so desire. Number 12, Mr. Kern says this corroborates the reason why year-end there seems to be a very high unspent substitute wage expenditure for FY 2018 was $120,000, and in FY 2017 it was approximately $80,000. The favorable FY 2018 variance in substitute wage expenditure was $82,955. Fiscal year 2017, the favorable variance was $88,016. These amounts are for all substitute categories, including bus drivers, the lack of substitutes to fill openings, does contribute to the favorable variance. Recognizing the favorable variance we have realized the past 2 years, our initial budget proposal for FY 2020 includes reducing substitute payroll lines by $50,000. Mr. Kern said he was asked to pay a $5,200 deposit for requested financial information. Mr. Kern's request for information was estimated to be over 5,000 copies and 190 man-hours to search, collate, and copy the information requested. Mr. Kern is and was invited monthly to review all our current invoices and bills. He was also invited to review the requested documents. Mr. Kern has not chosen to do either. Closed session. Mr. Kern accused the school board that will not investigate anything. Mr. Kern supposedly received a complaint from an anonymous source that a student was going to be placed in school suspension for approximately 3 months. Mr. Kern would not share any further information with me or with the board. Again, his statement is false, and he has chosen to ignore the facts. The student was provided extra assistance called wraparound services, certainly called the Virginia Department of Education. You can find all about wraparound services, and is currently being very successful in school. Mr. Kern stated that Mr. Tucker, chairman of the board, said that the school board wasn't going to investigate anything. Mr. Tucker explained to Mr. Kern that it was the administration's job to do the investigation, not the board's responsibility. Unhappy with the school board's decision, Mr. Kern then filed a complaint with Child Protective Services against 2 administrators for abusing the child by providing the wraparound services. Needless to say, CPS personnel would not investigate the case. During that same meeting, Mr. Kern also wanted to review personnel files. Our school board attorney advised Mr. Kern and the board that personnel files should only be reviewed when the board needs to make a decision, and then review those files with caution. The board decided not to review the files that evening. Mr. Kern was not satisfied and unhappy with that decision, as he wanted to review the personnel files. During each meeting, Mr. Kern has accused Mr. Tucker of belittling him. At no time did Mr. Tucker belittle Mr. Kern. Mr. Kern's statement is false. In fact, all school board members have attempted to assist Mr. Kern understand school board policy, operation, and responsibilities. Again, Mr. Kern has chosen to ignore his fellow board members, assistants, and their advice. Number 16, the superintendent explained to me when preparing budgets, they do an average of the prior 2 years when assigning expenditures. As you will see, this budget methodology doesn't exist with the majority of financial information I will present. The comment, first of all, was never said. Our practice has been to budget by exception. For example, for the fiscal year 2020 budget, we will budget the same amount by expenditure code as we budgeted for the current fiscal year, and then adjust the applicable expenditure codes based upon the expenditure increases and decreases approved by the school board in our final proposed budget. The Director of Finance has communicated to the Superintendent that if more reductions become necessary, we could budget non-contracted salary and benefits accounts based on a 3-year average. However, there are pitfalls associated with this model, but it is an option as we move forward.